is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
All right, there we go. Welcome back. There he is, the man, the myth, the legend. How you feeling, Mr. Navarro?
Fired up, man. Don't go to McDonald's. That's what I'm telling everybody to do. Don't go there. If you're standing in line.
What'd they do to you?
Oh, man, they gave me the 10:30 deadline, man. You know what I mean? The breakfast deadline.
Oh, really? And you pulled up at like 10:29 and they said no?
I actually pulled up like at 10:25. I was in line and get to the window right as the clock changes from 10:29 to 10:30, and immediately they changed the menu as I'm ordering. And the guy said, "Sorry, man. We were out of breakfast." I said, "Dude, you just served the car in front of me breakfast. What are you talking about?" I said, "I was in line here for 5 minutes." And he said, "Sorry, man." So I got out of the car, I went and spoke to the manager, and I'm like, "Listen, man, you're killing me. I'm standing in line. How can you at least not observe the he was in line already policy?"
Right.
So they gave me a couple breakfast burritos, but that's all I could squeeze in there. I was trying to get something for my wife and my mother-in-law who were here this morning, and it's just like, can't come home without the breakfast, man. You get that look, right?
Sounds to me like you better go to Chick-fil-A next time.
I think so, man. I think so.
They run things the way they're supposed to run them from beginning to end. Their people are trained right, bro. So
Yep.
yeah, I would, and plus I think out of the morning breakfasts, I think that was the best one.
The best one, yeah.
But
the McDonald's.
You're a Chick-fil-A guy too? Yeah. McDonald's is everywhere. That's why. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I like Chick-fil-A. I haven't had their breakfast quite as often, just because usually I just go there for the chicken, but
right.
Not a bad place. But yeah, McDonald's, you fouled up today, bro. You fouled up today.
There you go. Come on, McDonald's. You got to come through. Let's go, man.
If I'm in line, show me some respect if I'm waiting.
You know what you should do? You should take Jafari Harvey with some of his reptiles with
That's
you
what I'm going to do.
Through and scare the crap out of those people. You know what I mean? And Jafari just whips out this big ass reptile, and the guy goes, "I'll give you breakfast. I'll give you anything you want." You know what I mean?
That would work. That would work.
I'm telling you, that would work. What's wrong with that kid, by the way? What's he doing? Why is he messing with miniature dinosaurs?
He's Jafari's just, he's an interesting kid. They're all a little different. What I found out, by the way, there's a few hurricanes who have snakes is kind of a thing between a few of them, where they all have these reptiles that they own. Jafari just happens to have 3 of them that he's collected. 2 of them from teammates that transferred out. So you transfer out, you give your snake up to her.
So he's like the what's our boy down in the zoo? He's the resident, huh? He's the resident Ron McGill of the cave.
Yes,
is that what it is?
That's what it is. He loves animals. He's always loved animals, though. So that's his thing. I mean, listen, man, when I write these stories, I'm trying to get a little personality. You know how it is when you're in a 4-minute Zoom interview or 4-minute when the guys are sitting there clocking your interview, saying, "Hey, he's only got 4 minutes or 5 minutes." It's hard to get some information. It was good that through some NIL, I was able to get that interview with Jafari and talk to him a little bit more and get to know his personality.
So walk people through that. By the way, what Jafari Harvey, talk to us about his reptiles exactly. What reptiles does he own, and how much does he spend on rats?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know how much he spends on rats, but he's certainly buying them often.
I was hoping that was one of the questions, like behind the scenes, that I was going to be able to get from you. Like,
well, what I'll tell you is so he's got like you mentioned the lizard earlier. This monitor, it's about 4 feet long. That one's a little more vicious than the snakes because he's got a couple of
Monitor is the one that took a piece of skin off of him or something, right? Or something like that.
Right. That's the one that he's the only one that'll touch that thing. Basically, none of his other teammates or friends come over and get anywhere near that thing. But yes, the monitor ripped a little piece of his skin off with its claws, and he sent me the videos. He records these animals sort of getting devoured within seconds, and he just loves watching when the snake or the monitor pounces on the little rat. He enjoys that process. So it's I've got the videos. I didn't share them because I was afraid, that some people complain, hey, this is animal cruelty, but it is the way that they get fed, right? I mean, it's just
it's the only way.
but yes, so he's got two big snakes. One's I think a 3-footer, and another one who's about a foot, but that one's only 11-month old. And one of his former teammates, but like I said, those snakes were from former teammates. The lizard he actually went and bought, and so he drives all the time down. There's a I guess a snake store or a reptile store down the street from Miami, and so he goes and he buys his rats there, and he feeds them. He just enjoys that process, man. And I thought that was interesting. I know people have snakes as pets and lizards and all that kind of stuff, but to see a high school, slash college football player be doing that for years, and that's sort of something he's always been into, it's kind of an interesting, different take. You don't expect to see Jafari Harvey being one of those guys, but that's a big part of his life. He really enjoys it.
Yeah, that's it's interesting. I saw that story and I was like, damn, I got to talk to him about that one because that's just funny. All right. I see. I don't know if you saw John Ruiz is he's gonna now release like a life wallet for athletes. Did you see that?
Yeah, he wants
to. Gonna be able to like it'll have like information for all athletes all across the country, and it'll make I'm sure it's not just for them, but it'll also make it easier for him to track some of these guys too.
Yeah, I think what he wants to do is basically create an NIL sort of worth value for each of these kids, right? Based on their Twitter following and their social media and all that kind of stuff, and their status as players. It's sort of creating a market where everybody gets some sort of dollar value put on them for NIL deals. Remember, his whole thing is, he staggers his pay for all the UN players. They don't all get the same amount, and he bases it off of their NIL value. So he wants to create the same sort of concept. On3 Sports just sort of come along, and they're involved in the recruiting game as well, covering it from all perspectives. They have something similar for that for all the elite high school kids in the country. This is his concept, and he told me about this a couple of weeks ago, that this was in the works. It's going to try to rank every high school, and I know it's kind of ambitious because there's so many kids that play sports, but I guess if you want to sign up and be involved in it, and get your name out there, so to speak, I think you can do that now, and they're creating the database to do that.
Yeah, that's I thought that was really interesting, a way of creating a database that like this will allow actually even guys that may fall by the wayside a little bit might get more exposure this way, and
Yeah,
might even find themselves a home, maybe not at a top tier school, but a lesser school that still may have some kind of a budget for them. So it's just it's interesting. It's really interesting, all the things that he's trying to implement, obviously. And again, while he has to navigate through all the, I would imagine, folks that don't like what he's doing and how he's helping the University of Miami in the process too.
Yeah, I think right now he's still viewed as that booster, right? That billionaire booster who's just around for paying Miami players. When in reality, he's a businessman who's trying to get people to talk about his business and to, I think, put himself in a position. I mean, Ruiz wants to have an influence here on sports in South Florida in one way, shape, or form.
He's already doing it.
But I think he wants to go all the way. He wants to be an owner. He either wants to own a stadium. He either wants to own a team. He talked about this last Friday at his event a week ago when I got back from Phoenix. I was there for it, but he basically got on stage and said, "Look, I want to buy the Dolphins and I want to buy the Marlins. Those are his intentions. He wants to own a professional sports team in South Florida. That's his number one priority." And I think all of this, money that he has now. I mean, it's not like he wasn't wealthy before, but it's obviously picked up in value here with the SPAC deal and everything else that he's gone through. He wants to be a player. He wants to be involved in helping South Florida teams, and that's his intention. And right now, it's through helping Miami with NIL. It's through using the athletes to and all of them. It's not just Miami. It's FIU too. FIU has some athletes that are part of his brand, his Life Wallet brand. But he wants to have an impact in South Florida. That's his goal, and he's got the money to do it.
I'm with you there, man. There's no doubt about that. All right, on the recruiting side, anything, any new developments out of some portal or something. I don't know.
Well, I mentioned the other day that Jalen Robinson kid, the former UCF receiver, would be here. He's already on his official visit. I think he's going to announce May 18th. So there'll be a resolution on that and whether or not he comes to Miami. Again, I was told early on in the process, he's a kid from Dallas, that it would be SMU, and now SMU is not even one of the schools that he's visited. So I have no insights into as far as what he's going to do. He's not a bad player, but at the same time, too, I think given a choice, Miami would certainly prefer a kid like Jordan Addison or some other elite, proven big wide receiver to bring in and pair in this offense with Tyler Van Dyke as a deep threat. But he's not a bad player. We'll see if he ends up picking Miami, but that's kind of it. And they also offered an offensive lineman from Charlotte. So they've, by my count, I think they've got 2 scholarships left. I think they're at 83 right now, that they're able to sort of use. Miami still has to formally announce who's medically retiring and who's quitting football and all that kind of stuff. Whoever didn't get into the portal, that hasn't been formally announced by anybody. Right. But I think there's some available scholarships to work with.
The Brandon Innes kid, the 5-star kid, and I know it's for next year, the kid from American Heritage.
Mm-hmm.
And he decommitted from Oklahoma after Lincoln left to USC.
Right.
But he's also got Alabama and Ohio State on the list. And I know that he obviously visiting with Miami too. You almost get the feeling that this kid is kind of dead set on leaving in a way. I don't know, but what do you hear about him? Because obviously he's a 5-star kid, and again, you know me, I don't go crazy 4 or 5-star whatever. But if he's that highly touted, walk us through what's the deal with him. What are you hearing?
Well, he's the kid I was in the car with him and his parents, right? When I was out in LA and I came on the show, I was driving through the LA freeways with you and was with the South Florida Express. I actually had dinner last night with Brett Getz, who's the head of the South Florida Express team, down at 800 Degrees, D Wade's place over in Aventura. Anyway, my understanding with Brandon, he may end up committing here soon, sometime over the summer, but Ohio State and USC, I think, were always sort of the leaders for him. The teams that I think he was most considering. Obviously, he has the connection already with Lincoln Riley. Played with Malachi Nelson, the quarterback recruit in the USC class, and then Brian Hartline and what they've been able to do with the wide receiver position at Ohio State has been pretty phenomenal. And I know that from their trip to Ohio State a month ago or 2 months ago now, they were really smitten with the school and just the idea of going there. Miami he's told me before in the past, and I wrote that in the story I wrote for The Athletic a couple months ago, that, Miami in his mind is a player because, staying home, potentially, watching Miami win big and feeling like, okay, the program's really turning the corner here. I think it's more dependent if Miami's going to have any real shot at Brandon Innes. And again, none of these kids can sign till December. So
make some noise this year.
Make noise. That's all it's going to come down to. Look good, play good, win the conference. You do that, I think you put yourself in the game. I think right now, because of those other connections that he has to USC, obviously being committed to Lincoln Riley and all that kind of stuff when he was at Oklahoma, and then just Ohio State being Ohio State, those schools are in front. But that's kind of what was expected. The one thing I'll tell you, especially now with the transfer portal, right, and how I think it almost trumps high school recruiting now, like in the sense of because there's so many free agents out there that you can add that are older that can make an immediate impact. And because so many of these high school kids now are going to a school, spending a year there and transferring, I don't want to say high school recruiting has become meaningless because it obviously is still the lifeblood of a program. But in a lot of ways, the transfer portal has just sort of taken over, as far as being the primary source.
It allows you to shortcut this because you've gotten a shot at watching the kid for a year or two in college.
Right.
So you'll have a much better feel for a kid in college than any kid that plays in high school who might be playing against overmatched talent. He might be abusing people and you don't even really get a feel for the kid. So yeah, I can understand where the transfer portal is more of a quick fix, actually.
And I would venture to say, and Max Olson, who one of our national writers at The Athletic, they've done a phenomenal job tracking numbers and how many kids enter the portal, how many of them end up finding other places, how many of them just never get out of the portal because there's nobody that wants them. This has become, we're in a big transition period in college sports. to me, I know we've paid so much attention to high school recruiting in the past, but I hate to say this as a guy who made a living covering high school recruiting for 20 years. It's stupid now. There's no point. There's no point in getting all excited about some high school recruit because A, your coach could change at the end of the year and then all those kids leave. B, a position coach could leave and that's what springs the kid to leave. In the end, it's almost like we've gotten to the point where, okay, well, who's the head coach this year? Who are the assistants and what position do they need? And those guys come in and they have so much more of an impact. So you can recruit these 5- and 4-star guys and get all excited about it in December and February when they sign. But I mean, when you look at the number of kids getting into the transfer portal now, what's the point? Why? Like that's like B-level recruiting now. Now it's all about the A level, which is transfer portal. Right. So I know that hurts to hear if you're a Kane Sports subscriber or an Inside the U subscriber, the guys who cover recruiting like it's nobody's business, right? They get all excited about these kids. But the reality is, like, I don't know. If I was in Miami, I wouldn't get excited about high school recruiting anymore because it's really become meaningless in a lot of ways. It really has.
And you recruit a kid that you may never even see him play.
Right. You could be here for 2 years, doesn't play it down, and you're like, oh, well, he sucks. He didn't play it down. Well, no, the way college was supposed to be was you don't play your first 2 years. You're a backup or you play on special teams. And, you know, if you're doing it right anyway. But now, I mean, it's just a different game. It's just a different game. And, you know, you look at how many kids have left Miami in the last 2 years that were just signed in the last 2 years. I mean, that list is growing. Like the amount of just quick turnover. Like he was here for a year, he was here for 2 years, he's gone. So I don't know. I think the world of high school recruiting and the way it's been covered maybe for the last 20 years, where it's really been so intensified and, oh, what is this kid thinking? And what decision is he going to make today? It's like, it almost like, talk to me in December, bro. Talk to me when you're going to actually sign the paper, because what's the point about getting excited about some junior right now when he may be at 3 different schools before he ever gets on the field.
Right. Yeah.
It's crazy, but it's the reality of it.
Yeah, it is. It makes a lot of sense nowadays. All right. Talk to me a little bit about where you're working on the Athletics, so Canes fans can subscribe and check you out, my friend.
Well, I had a fun debate with Grace Rayner, who covers Clemson for us, and Andy Bitter, who covers Virginia Tech. We're the 3 sort of ACC team beat writers for the Athletic. And, you know, obviously the story this week was them switching the scheduling, right? Going from, I guess, what's been 7, you know, annual rivals in the ACC to 3. That's the plan. They go 3 and then rotate the other 5 every 2 years. So you play everybody every 2 years. And it's not one of those things where, oh, we haven't played Wake Forest since 2008 or whatever. Like, if you're in the same conference, you're going to play everybody twice in 4 years, at least twice in 4 years, and you'll play 3 teams every year. So we kind of did a little fun debate, and I came up with my list of matchups. Grace did hers, Andy did his, and we kind of we went through our thought process of why we paired these teams to play together. The one thing I'll tell people, you know, everybody has this idea, oh, they're going to be in pods. No, it's not pods. It's not going to be the same 3 or 4 teams playing each other. What it is you sit there and you basically line up the best 42 games, 14 opponents, 14 teams in the ACC, 3 opponents each. And you just got to try to get the best pairings, the ones that make the most sense. And my model, I went very heavy on history, right? Like how often these teams have played each other. For Miami, it makes total sense to me for them to play Florida State, Virginia Tech, and Pitt every single year. And people are like, oh, Pitt? I'm like, well, yeah. If you look at the list of games that Miami's played, Pitt is 3rd on the list behind Florida and Florida State. That's who they've played more than anybody else outside of their 2 in-state rivals. So that's how I kind of went about it for every single team.
Well, didn't we have them in the Big East?
We had them in the Big East, and then as soon as they came over here, it became Miami's, you know, the interdivision rival. So it's kind of interesting because we always sit there. The other thing I studied was attendance figure. I literally spent 3 days. I mean, this is stupid. When I get involved in something, it's like I want to know all the answers, right? So I've created like 8 different Excel spreadsheets breaking down attendance marks and who fills the stadium the most. Which opponent's coming down and all that kind of stuff. I know we all get caught up. Well, you know, the most important thing is to sell tickets, right? You want the rivalries to sell tickets. The reality is you study all that stuff. I mean, Clemson and Virginia Tech, they have the most sellouts. They sell out pretty much very often, right? And they're selling out for teams like Wofford, you know, and South Carolina State. And so it in the end, it really doesn't matter. If your team is good, people are going to show up. It doesn't matter who the opponent is. So that whole school of thought of, well, it has to be somebody who helps bring in attendance. Every team basically averages what they average. It's like Virginia never sells out. They average around 40,000 fans a year. Pittsburgh, you look at Pittsburgh on Saturdays, that stadium is empty, or third empty every Saturday when Pitt plays there. It's just too big of a stadium for them, for a college team like them that draws 40,000. So it's kind of interesting article. If you've been thinking about that, like what matchups are best and how should the ACC go about this process, that article is up there for you to read. I'm also working on a sort of a recap of the coaching carousel with Bruce Feldman on Mario Cristobal, how he got here, how he put his staff together. That'll be coming up next week. A lot of different things in the works. Ruiz story that they want me to write. I mean, there's a lot to read there. But if you're, again, I always tell people, if you're a fan of college football, subscribe to The Athletic, because we got so many great national writers and people who give things perspective. It's worth the $1 subscription or whatever the hell it is.
Yeah, super cheap, man. So make sure you subscribe and follow him on Twitter at Manny_Navarro. Manny, as always, I appreciate you, my brother. We will catch up next week, my friend. Thank you.
All right, man. Take care.
You got it. There you go. That's our Caneswear Miami Hurricanes report.
If you're